Okay, I believe we are live right now. Hello, hi guys. My name is Damien, Business Capital TV. My first guest, an amazing Ciro Ciampi of the Sharnbrook Hotel in Bedfordshire. It's a bit far away from Bedford. How far is
We're
it from
about
Bedford?
about 10 minutes north of Bedford, so North Bedfordshire, but a great area of the country, accessible to everybody.
Oh, it's beautiful. I see the website of the hotel. It's absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
You guys need to see it yourself. So, Chiro, the purpose of this channel is to introduce business like yours and individuals like you, like yourself, to the public. And the purpose of it is obviously the coronavirus situation, how we are going to restart and reshift, move the business, maybe change something in the business. Definitely something's coming in terms of changes.
Yeah.
So but first I wanted to touch with the family, because family life obviously it's important. So before we get to the family, how everything started for you, how did you start your, let's say, career, the big career? So from, let's say, from high school, how was Ciro Ciampi, um, early days, like high
Early
school?
days, early days goes back to my parents being in business since I was before I was born, and when I was 5 years old, being on the market, selling bread with my dad, and shouting for attention to people to sell bread, sell bin liners rolled up on the marketplace at Finmere Market. But then, obviously, being very close to the family business, which was a delicatessen, then we had the family restaurant, first restaurant. From 11 years old, I was serving as the cute little boy, and I learned sales skills, learned to adapt and talk to anybody from any kind of demographic, any kind of background, any race. And I learned from an early age you don't discriminate at all, because at the end of the day, everybody has a story to tell, everybody is a customer and potential business, and everybody is also a potential friend, because we've made a lot of friends for our business.
Yeah.
But then I made my way through the school years. The restaurant grew while I was at school, but also worked every evening. Went off to university, chose the easy option of a degree of Italian and French. I'm Italian and I speak French really well. So that was an easy option. I should have done business with Italian or business with French, but I didn't want to drop either of the languages. I don't want to become stronger in one of the two languages. But following that, I went into finance and became a qualified financial consultant in and around the London area for about four to 6 years, and each time just grew to like the top quartile of the company I was in, effectively selling mortgages, investments, pensions, etc. And then when we bought the land at the hotel, that was an opportunity for me to come out of the corporate world, but apply that corporate knowledge. The last company I worked for was Wesleyan in Birmingham, and before that was HSBC. And with this, especially HSBC, you learn, with their logo being the world's local bank, you learn to operate on a local basis with a corporate mind. And
Yeah.
that was invaluable to me. When we then finally opened a hotel, I resigned from my role, and the financial world, I came out of that, but everything was changing in that world as well. All the red tape was starting to go up in terms of the problems with self-certification mortgages and all the problems with investments. And then there was a massive crash in the market as well. So came out of that, started running the hotel in 2006 when we were finally ready to open, because we built it from scratch. And yeah, then applied everything I knew that I'd learned since I was 5 years old into the new business, and literally built the business from within inside it. There you go. Yeah.
Well, yeah, the hotel is beautiful. Guys, take a look at the hotel. There's a website. It's an amazing place. I was actually going to see and to see it myself, and to stay a couple of nights with my wife. But obviously, the situation with coronavirus is great and helped us to change all the plans. Um, so, do you think? Because it always brings me the question, when I see my career, how it progressed. Do you think the College of Arts, English and French, Italian and French, helped you somehow with your career, with in your business life?
So my Italian and French has always been an important part of me. With my heritage being Italian, I found that anywhere I traveled to in the world, having that Italianism to yourself was just opened you up. People are so much friendlier to you because you have that Italian background, that Italian heritage. But having the language of French behind you, English and Italian, literally I can communicate with people all over the world. So did it help me with my business life? No, not really. But for instance, if anybody walks into the hotel and they speak English, French, or Italian, I can communicate with them, and they're always surprised, especially if I start speaking in French. Even my employees are surprised when they hear me speaking French because they may not even know that I speak French. But the whole university experience, and I remember back then when we were in career talks at schools and things like that, the whole university experience was what helped my business life and helped me with my business mindset and helped me develop and progress, because being independent and fending for yourself, but being in those environments where you're interacting with different people all the time and meeting new people, that was very much the relationships built at university very much helped forge my future and helped me continue that journey that I started when I was 5 years old.
Okay, but is your wife English? Is your wife British? Or?
Yeah, my wife's British. We've got 4 girls as well who are now between the age of 9 and 15, and life's crazy when it's full pelt. And I'll tell you the truth, I love being at home with them. I've enjoyed lockdown, being at home, but at the same time, I'm the type of guy that likes to be busy. So we were going full pelt, everything planned for the year. All the girls are busy with their school and activities. My wife and I, but mainly my wife, drives them around after school to all their clubs every night of the week, and we don't stop at all. And then we go on holiday and we don't stop, and then we get back and we don't stop. The lockdown kind of just brick wall. We hit that brick wall, and it was just like, actually, like, this is really nice. Actually having some time to chill and relax together. But at the same time, you've got that really positive side of things. You've got the negative side of things where everything kind of stopped. Everything you've worked for in your life is stopped. Your business is stopped. And it's some people, I've got a lot of friends that are workaholics, they can't function without that work side of things. So there's been difficulties like keeping the mind strong, keeping the mind positive, and looking forward as to what's going to be next.
Yeah, I suppose it's the balancing thing. It's a very useful skill to master these days, because suddenly from workaholics and not being at home, suddenly we have to work from home, which for many people it's completely new environment being at home.
Yeah.
But you know, your wife being British and you speak French and Italian, it must have helped you somehow when, you know, early days with your girlfriend turning your wife.
Well, we met when I was 18 before I went to university.
Okay.
And we kept the relationship going through university. I was born here and bred here, so I count myself as British.
So that was natural charm.
Yeah, just natural. She actually worked at Sainsbury's, and I kept going through her till and stalking her. Right back, if it was now, I'd have probably been arrested, but then it was okay.
Very good. Listen, so the family, so children, your girls, they like you at home all the time now in a situation, or you have your battles.
Yeah, no, we're really, really lucky. We've got a nice house. We've got lots of space. They all have their own rooms. We have lots of communal areas, lots of communal rooms. I'm in my office now. We've got a large garden. Today they're in the pool. We put that up a couple of weeks ago once the weather changed. I think we all just have our own space, but come together really nicely. We had a barbecue together last night as well. I respect their independence. I respect their time that they need sometimes for themselves. You know, the youngest two spend a lot of time together. The elder two don't really spend too much time together. There's a lot of difference in maturity between the two of them, even though they're only 2 years apart. But it's just, I've always accepted, acknowledged, and understood how everybody's personalities are made up, because while they're part of me and part of my wife, some character traits are from me, some character traits from my wife, but then sometimes my eldest does things and I think she's just like me right now, and I think I know I need to leave her alone. But we've gone on lots of walks. We're lucky we're in the countryside, so we can walk for miles and hours, and just keep, it's one of the good things is we touched upon mental health, and I suffered with depression about 4 years ago, and I never thought, having been always a very optimistic, positive person, that I would ever suffer from anything like depression. And it's been a massive journey for 4 years, learning how to deal with it, talk about it. And in talking about it, I found literally it happened when I turned 40. And it's nothing to do with turning 40. It was just how everything up to that point had built up to that moment. Yeah, everything. And in the last 4 years since I turned 40, it's just been a case of understanding, acknowledging, and constantly just finding the root of where that negativity is coming from. So that for me has been, I usually had sessions every 3 weeks with my therapist just to keep continuing the talk as well as talking with friends. And even in lockdown, I kept it up, but I've postponed some meetings because there's not been any point. I feel like I'm coping really well. And I feel that my house, my home is my safe place. And being around my girls and my wife is my safe place and happy place. So I know that other people have struggled. I know there's people that have been locked down lonely, alone, not with family around them. I know I've been lucky like that, but then also, so my wife will see that I'm down, and she'll say, right, let's go for a walk. And just walking in the sun has just been able to, it's like Superman being energized by the sun. I come back really buzzing with ideas and things like that. And then that proliferates the business side of things where we're locked down, but I'm already thinking, what can I do that's going to be different when we reopen? What can I do to be ahead of the game when we open? What can I do? There's so many facets to the business. How can we do the conferences, the weddings, the functions, the restaurant, the car shows, to ensure that we don't come back at 20, 30% capacity? We need to be back at more than that to be able to bring the staff back.
Yes, that's true.
Everything's entwined with the mindset, with the mental health, family life, the way you approach business. It's all entwined, and you just got to keep it together as much as possible.
Yeah, that's very important. I heard an interview, Patrick David, you probably know him. Patrick David interviews, he actually interviewed Kobe Bryant as the last person. And I heard one of these interviews with one of the doctors about, they were talking about mental health. And some people think that mental health didn't exist. I mean, mental health issues didn't exist years ago. Oh, people were stronger. It's not true. People just didn't think about it and didn't talk about it. Right now, the easiest and the best solution is to have someone to share this, and just someone to listen to you, right? Because I had mine. Oh Christ, that was years ago, 2000, 2001, 2002. It was very close. It was very close. That was very close call. But yeah, again, I had friends, and I spoke to friends, and yeah, everything fall into right place, and the mindset completely shifted into another direction, and yeah, that's very important. So moving to your business, how did you shift from full-time job, because Wesleyan, that must have been what, 10 hours job? After 10 hours you forgot about everything, going home?
So I was really lucky, and I'm sure now it's been 14 years I can actually disclose how I did it, because we were building the hotel. So
we're gonna reveal something.
So we were building the hotel. I was part of a great team. I was obviously targeted with figures, etc., to achieve. And we started building the hotel 2004, 2005. And we then knew by the end of 2005 that 2006, end of 2006, we were going to open. So literally from November 2005, December 2005, then into January 2006, I worked so hard building up all my figures sales that I was in the top 10 of, I think it was about 500 salespeople. So I'd really got to myself to the top of the national team. And when you're riding that wave of positivity and sales and everything else, you just keep bringing in more sales and more sales, but you've got so much energy and adrenaline pumping. And so I kept that up to March, April, and then the commission started coming through as well, which is great from a financial and personal finance point of view. Then as the hotel started getting closer to the finishing touches, I would spend a little bit more time every week at the hotel. So maybe 3 days with Wesleyan and 2 days, 3 days at the hotel. But also I would work evenings. I usually worked 11 p.m. till 3 in the morning sort of thing, and just working. I had the energy then, so I probably did a lot more than I would do now. But as it got to September and we were looking to open end of October, I started really considering my position with obviously Wesleyan, and that was a point where I really came down to about 2. By that point, I'd fallen from the top 10 to middle of the country. And even at that point, my area manager hadn't questioned my lack of sales. Just things were changing in the industry as well. So that worked in my favor, that people were struggling and there was a recession. So it came to the point where middle of October, that when I resigned, I was put on garden leave so then I could spend all my time at the hotel while we were finishing it off, and I was paid out until that. And the day I ended with Wesleyan was the day before I started, and we opened a hotel. So it was planned really well. And then when we opened the hotel, it was full throttle. I remember we went from a relatively small restaurant to a big restaurant and big function hall. The hotel wasn't open until 3 months later because we still had to finish that off financially. The money had to start coming in to create positive cash flow, and then we could finish off the rooms upstairs. So in November 2006, we opened the restaurant and the function suite ready for Christmas, and then March 2017, we opened the hotel rooms.
So was it rather let's see what happens and think about it, or precisely planned when you opened the hotel?
No, the opening of the hotel was precisely planned to be the restaurant and the function suite to be open before Christmas, so that we could move from the old restaurant, which sat 200 guests, move to the new facility, which had a restaurant for 110 guests and a function suite for 300 guests. So then obviously we could, by that point, generate more money and finish off the hotel. We'd borrowed a lot of money as a family. We'd sold properties as a family to build the hotel. It was a huge investment, huge project, stretched us in terms of time. And my dad was instrumental in building the hotel. I was instrumental in preparing the business side of things, making sure that when we did open, we had the brochures, the information, the pricing, and the restaurant, moving into the restaurant was amazing. But moving into the hotel, which was March, it was non-stop work. I remember 80, 90 hours a week, and preparing the hotel for its opening at the end of March. The hotel was an area that we didn't know as a family. We knew catering, we knew the restaurant. Opening the hotel was a new side of the business. And to start with, it was a restaurant with rooms. And over the years, it's become more of a hotel and has that real hotel feeling.
Yeah, well, right now it looks like proper hotel. So how many rooms do you have, guys, in Sharnbrook?
So we've got, I think some of the photos on the website there don't show, because of the way the angle is, it doesn't show the full extent of the width of the building because there's 2 new wings that are set back on the sides.
Yeah, there's this one photo. It's yeah.
This is an older photo which doesn't show the side, but it's 42 rooms now, 21 standard rooms, 19 superior rooms, which are the original hotel rooms, which are huge, and then 2 executive bridal suites. There's 2 purpose-built conference suites. There's the huge Amalfi suite, which is a conference suite, function suite, wedding suite. Can hold up to 300 people, but can also be made smaller to take average weddings or about 80 people. So much parking, grounds. It's on a 4-acre plot in North Bedfordshire. It's everything there. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's great, and I saw your short video you posted on Instagram. I think it was a week ago or so, a couple of weeks ago, when you shown how the guy was trimming your garden. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. The garden looks stunning. So
Yeah,
you probably shoot a lot of photos for weddings, yeah.
we do a lot of photos for weddings. That's I mentioned the facets of the business. The business needs to have, with a business that size, if you can imagine the costs, overheads of the business, which were what was really scary when COVID-19 really hit us, was our overheads are approximately £6,000 a month for electricity, £6,000 a month for rates, £2,000 a month for water. And that's just the minor kind of fixed costs that are there every month. To have a business like this and have the doors open, you need to have a multifaceted approach. So the conference side of the business is its own uh, income stream. The car shows which we've developed are monumental, and they give us a massive income stream which would occur on a Sunday or on a bank holiday Monday when business is slightly less.
Yeah.
Obviously, the wedding side of the business is a huge part of the business, and that's photography comes into the every element of it, and then that's where it links into social media. Because if you would search the Sharnbrook Hotel, anything to do with cars, we would be there, because predominantly people will take pictures of supercars or classic cars or interesting cars at our car shows and for the purpose of sharing them on social media and tagging the hotel, tagging me on my Instagram. People still do that with weddings, but not as much.
Yeah.
And then so you've got social media on the car show side of things, and photography is huge. Comes down to weddings, then parties, but you don't normally get it for your normal restaurant visit. And VesuviO restaurant is the origins of the hotel. That's what we used to have as a small restaurant in the local village of Clapham. And when we moved it into the hotel, it was kind of swallowed up by the Sharnbrook Hotel. But VesuviO's is very much its own entity and its own income stream, and it's the beating heart of the whole complex. And with VesuviO's, we relaunched back in at the end of February. We relaunched the restaurant, rebranded with new logos, but it's still very much a VesuviO restaurant at the Sharnbrook Hotel.
Okay. So I really don't like to talk COVID-19 because we I feel every time I mention COVID-19, I'm like doing free PR to this thing,
Mm,
but obviously COVID-19 hit us very hard, and business like yours, smaller the business, smaller the problems, and your business is massive, and as you mentioned, overhead, so you need constant churn in the business to make money to cover costs. How oh, Certainly there was no way to prepare for something like this, but how did you um, you went through mental issues in the past, and all sorts of problems, and I know myself that any events like this, it's very dangerous for us because it can trigger, um, and it can come back. How did you you know how did you protect yourself and the business from implosion, from imploding into this state of complete misery? Because I was very close to this in the past,
yeah.
after 2002, 2001, 2002. Um, but I figure out the way to protect myself from potential problems. So if there is something approaching me, I'm like, okay, this is what's going to happen potentially. So this is what I need to do to protect myself from anything go awry.
Yeah. So to a certain extent, the 2 weeks leading up to the closure, and I remember all the dates perfectly because it was Mother's Day on the Sunday, and on the Friday, I think it was Friday the 20th of March, they made the government announcement. We had people sitting in the restaurant. We had a a dance group in the function suite doing their dance practice because they'd been closed from the school. And we had Boris Johnson on the screen in the bar, and there were people in the bar. Nobody was social distancing at that point, and he announced that all restaurants and bars had to close. And the 2 weeks leading up to that point, I'd been very much in tune with what was happening in Italy and keeping an eye on events, numbers, stats from Italy, and especially Italian restaurants, bars closing. Even more so that the Italian government had decided to postpone everybody's mortgage payments across businesses and residential, etc. So for those 2 weeks leading up to that point, we had constantly been making changes to the way we approach business, introducing our contactless takeaway and delivery service. We always did do takeaway delivery service as another income stream into the business, but very much a small part of the business. But we had to increase our service. We did certain things to help the community, to literally help the community, because everybody was suffering in these times. So we introduced free food for local over 70s. So if they're over 70, living on their own or with their partner, and they couldn't get out to supermarkets because the supermarkets were being absolutely decimated with people buying toilet rolls, etc., we would deliver twice a week to the same household, free choice of a pizza or pasta. And because we were doing that, I knew that other local people that could afford food were going to be supporting us. So our sales increased, but the restaurant was completely empty. Mothering Sunday, that was literally 2 days after they announced the closure of the restaurants. We continued as takeaway and delivery. 5 out of my 7 chefs couldn't come in. One had a cough, or one had someone at home who had a cough. At that point, everybody was scared, so they stayed at home. So Mothering Sunday was me, my wife, my eldest daughter, my mum, and 2 chefs doing Mothering Sunday takeaway delivery service, Sunday roast, for families that had booked into the restaurant but now were having it at home. Because of the amount of adrenaline, and I think you'll understand this with regards to the mental health, because of the amount of adrenaline in those 2 weeks, I was working as hard as I had been when we first opened the restaurant and the hotel at the new place. So
back to basics.
Yeah, I was literally in the morning with the graphic designer, changing things, updating things. Afternoon, putting it out, getting ourselves ready for it. In the evening, implementing it. Next day, things would change. We were on it again. But Mothering Sunday, literally by 5:30, I said to my mum, we can't carry on. We have to close. There is no point. The amount of stress, sweat, the amount of hard work that went into that Friday, Saturday, Sunday for very little return. Everything that came in that week literally covered the staff's wages, and that was it. Did not cover the overheads, did not cover anything else, did not cover the ingredients. And that was the stark reality, that because of the size of the place, we could not survive by just doing takeaway delivery at that point, because we had such a huge team of staff, 50 members of staff. At that point, it was only Friday they were announced as they were allowed to be furloughed. We still had out, I think, about £8,500 that week's wages to pay, and we'd only done about £9,000 all week in the restaurant with takeaway and delivery. So that was a stark reality. And at that point, I think all the adrenaline drained, and that's when the mental health question comes in, because you can be knocked for 6, you can be knocked down, but switching the lights off that night and walking away for 8 weeks, but switching the lights off at that point, I remember switching them off. I remember it going dark. I remember getting emotional, but I also remember this isn't just me. This is every other restaurant, every other hotel, every other business around the UK was suffering the same way, and everybody else was going to go through that moment of switching off those lights. And I did get down. I spent the first week just really like relaxing, sleeping in the mornings, which I tend to do if I can. If I have to do something, I'm up, I'll do 15, 16-hour days. But if I can sleep in, I'll sleep in. And for that first week, it was a case of just having time to myself, being at home with the kids, my wife, and just kind of, getting onto the week after, painting gates and things like that. But staying positive has been hard. But I think the way we've innovated by having I started even before lockdown and a COVID diary on my Facebook Live on the hotel, and 9,500 views within 2 days. And I'm thinking, wow, this is great. And people actually messaging me, thanking me for giving them, the insight so they could relate to what was happening because they had similar situations with their business, or even being inspired because I've always been really positive, always been an optimist. And so their appreciation of me doing that just spurred me to do it more. So by doing the Facebook Live gave me something to look forward to, that I'd regularly do that. With the Petrol Hedonism Instagram page, I started introducing Instagram Live car shows. So I'd go to the hotel on a Sunday evening, 5 p.m. There you are, 5 p.m. on a Sunday evening, have some cars behind me, but linking with friends that have car collections, or been linking in with people in New Jersey, California, Dallas, also all over the UK, whether it's a dealership like Amari in Preston, or whether Carl Hartley, Lincolnshire, I think he's in Lincolnshire. Whether it's linking in with those, but people showing people cars, and it just keeps you current. And it just gave me something to look forward to as well. If I just sat at home for 8-9 weeks and not done anything business related, I would have suffered. I would have really suffered. But it's going back to what can keep your mind going as well. So it's hard, and I've had a couple of dark days where, and the depression is never ever gone. Once you've suffered it, it's always there. You can always have negative thoughts. You can always have things that you mull over and it starts driving you downwards. But I've had a couple of dark days, but I know now how to deal with them. Like you say, you have triggers and you have things that you understand it. As long as you can understand it, you can recognize what's happening to you. Not necessarily anything anyone can do to help you, but just by talking, starting to verbalize what you're internalizing. And that's one of the things I've kind of done on a couple of things which I'm supporting Mind UK at the moment with Mental Health Awareness Week. If you can verbalize what you're internalizing, that's already part of the battle. Understanding what you're going through. The more you ignore it and think there's nothing wrong with you, the worse it is.
Yeah, true. I agree. Well, obviously, your hobby, your business, and your family help you to keep everything together. So, what do you think before we go to petrol heading and petrol hedonism? What do you think? What do you think? Because that's my, I'm itching. I'm itching to go to this. What do you think small businesses in the UK, I think we fortunate because the government is trying, you love it or you hate it, but they try to do everything they can, I think. All sorts of bounce back loans and coronavirus support and grants for businesses and all sorts of things in the UK. So we sort of should be somehow okay with this if we can pick up the mindset and put the mindset in the right in the right way. But what do you think you could advise small businesses? They have no money, no income, like hairdressers or chefs or small takeaways, restaurants. What would how would you tackle the problem or help tackle the problem?
So I think a lot of I've been inspired by others. I've got friends. I'm fortunate enough with the car shows, and we will talk about car shows a lot, I know. But with the car shows, it's become like a networking event. My car shows, where I have 250 supercar owners, is a huge networking event. And I've become extremely lucky to have an opportunity to tap into the wealth of knowledge behind these guys that own these cars, because all of them will either have their own business or work at a high level in business. And I've been able to talk to people, have ideas from people, but be inspired by others. And so when people tell me that I inspire them, I always look to the guys that inspire me to do what I do. And a lot of these people a lot of the smaller businesses have been clever in adapting, being able to stay open in some businesses especially, and continue to work and generate an income and cover their costs even at this time. And it's been surprising to me how many businesses have been able to do that. But obviously the obvious business like hairdressers, hotels, restaurants have suffered because we're not allowed to be open. We launched for Mind UK last week, we launched a social distancing car meet. Now, you can drive wherever you like. You can go to a beauty spot under the new guidelines. You can pick up a takeaway pizza. So we organised an event last Saturday where we had 15, 16 supercars come out. They drove from Kent to Sharnbrook. When they got there, they had pizza, takeaway, and then they drove back to Kent. Great event, all socially distanced. Each car had a bench 5 meters from the next car and bench. Unfortunately, something I didn't know, the guidelines have changed. As a takeaway business, they cannot consume the food on the premises. So where we're trying to operate, where we're trying to find a way to increase the income stream and have a positive cash flow, I fell foul of the law at that point. But I know I've set a blueprint for as soon as we're allowed to do that, we can start getting going and implement the guidelines. For any small business, I think you've just got to think outside the box. And that's one of the things that drives me all the time is as soon as the government says we can open on 3rd of July, I want to be ready and running already. I don't want to be thinking about it from the 3rd of July. If I do something, I've got to be setting an example and setting a precedent of how we do things moving forward. And I'll glean information and I'll glean advice from others. But as a business, I think you have to be running at the front. There's going to be a lot of businesses that don't survive this, unfortunately. There's a lot of different types of business models out there, Damien, which I know you'll understand. There's some events companies that use people's money. They've bought tickets as working capital. So they don't have the money to give it back as a refund. So they're moving the money forward. Now they're on borrowed time, unfortunately, because that money's not there. They've spent it on events that aren't going to occur this year. So it's going to be interesting over the next 12 months how many businesses can survive. The smaller businesses, I think up to about 55,000 rateable value, they've received grants of 10 or 25,000. It's not much, but it's something. The bounce back loan of £50,000 is exactly what it is, a bounce back loan. Businesses our size, and I have to base it on our rateable value of £107,000. That's the size of our business. We receive no grants, but I can tap into the bounce back loan or the CBILS, the coronavirus loan scheme. I'm hoping that with family money and with selling possibly a car or selling something that we can not have to go down that route, because it is exactly what it says on the tin. It's a loan. But this whole situation, the whole situation overall is going to cost the UK public a lot of money in tax. The government are doing everything now, and that's fantastic, by paying everybody's furlough payments, which astonished me. I've never heard of furlough payments before. Never, ever heard of it. And when they said they're paying everybody 80% as an employee to stay at home, I knew they'd looked after all my employees. But in terms of business owners, it's a different kettle of fish, and we need to do everything possible to survive. So a week ago, we reopened just as a takeaway delivery service, just mainly with family members. And I took 2 full-time workers off furlough and 1 part-time worker off furlough, because I can't afford to make it make sense any other way. And that all that does is generate a little bit of positive cash flow, because I still owe people money with bills that are coming in monthly. They still expect to be paid. We're chasing people for money that owe us since before lockdown, because they decided that we weren't important enough to pay at that point. So it's interesting. I've been inspired, as I say, by lots of small businesses thinking outside the box. My sister has a hair and beauty salon in the hotel, and barbers and hairdressers are going to struggle. I know that she's been taking part in some of the online forums that have been taking place, and one of the things she has to look into is adding a COVID-19 tax, because of the PPE they have to offer their staff with each customer. So there's so many things that are going to be implemented, but that will change our everyday life moving forward.
Yeah, that's true. It's definitely going to change. So I think we just got to be a little bit more creative.
Yeah.
And whoever can apply a bit of creativity. I said to someone last week that we need to not even think about outside the box. We need to go outside the box and go far away from that box so we can't even see it, and then start thinking about business. So what do you think? Basically, how if everything restarts, how people can help your business? Do you think? Have you heard anything about opening hotels? How are you going to operate now? A hotel and restaurant.
So
do you have like booking in advance, where as soon as it's a restart, obviously no one is going to be there the first day, but do you have something? Are you planning something? Because I'm happy to put it in description for you. As soon as you open a hotel, the pre-booking, or booking tables for a restaurant and something like that.
So throughout everything to do with lockdown and beforehand, they're never described hotels. They always describe restaurants, bars, cafes, but never mentioned really hotels. But inherently, the restaurant can't operate, so therefore nobody can stay in the hotel because they can't eat in the restaurant. There are guidelines, and it's only critical workers that are allowed to stay in hotels, but and you can provide them with room service. But that didn't work for us. And I know there's large hotel chains or groups running at 20% occupancy, and they're running at a loss. But again, it's about generating some form of positive cash flow, but also being able to help with the critical workers at the moment. So in terms of opening, the indication is the 3rd of July we'll be able to open the restaurant with social distancing. The final week of our opening before lockdown, we'd already halved the table numbers in the restaurants, and from 110-seater, it became 50-seater with the table spread out with at least 2 meters between tables. We will issue our staff and expect all our staff to wear gloves and masks. Everything I have learned or understood or inquired regarding masks, the masks is to protect you from me. So if I wear a mask, I'm protecting you, not me. Yeah. So if I have a cough or sneeze or anything, that would protect you. So protecting my staff and protecting my customers, my staff will wear a mask. It's interesting because will groups of 10 be able to come in to celebrate a birthday? I'm not sure if that's going to happen. If they're from 2 households, maybe they will. So I'm expecting the restaurant business, let's talk generally, to be running at maybe 30-40% of their normal output. I'm fortunate. I can spread tables into my function suite. I can spread tables onto the patio at the front there. I can spread tables into our bar areas and into our private rooms. So I can still get the numbers up. But where my business is going to struggle and other hotels are going to struggle, we won't be hosting any weddings. All my weddings have postponed till the end of September. We won't be hosting any big birthday parties. And my hotel thrives at the weekend, Friday and Saturday, and some of Sunday, based on the functions that we will have on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So if I have no function, I have a minimal amount of guests staying in the hotel. My weekends have been absolutely ruined in terms of from a business point of view. So where the hotel might be busier Monday to Thursday, if business guests are traveling and staying with us, Friday and Saturday, the hotel will come down right low occupancy, but then the restaurant, obviously Friday, Saturday night is busier. So it's going to be a whole new business model. But then in terms of what we implement, I'm not looking into blow-up dolls, which I see that a restaurant in America has done. I'm not looking into cardboard cutouts, which I've seen in Australia. We will just spread people out. And one of the things is the tables will only be labelled cloths, or the cutlery will be placed on the table once the guests have come in, so we can make sure that nobody else has touched them. They've been quarantined, as it were, for some time before they're given to the customers. And just ensure, like, for instance, menus either need to be wiped down or disposable menus. One of the things will be as well is we'll have to run a reduced menu. We can't run our full menu. We can't have the huge array of ingredients that we have in, because the operating costs are going to have to be so much lower, because the generated income is going to be so much lower. If once I can do the social distancing car meets, I've got 20 groups ready to come, drive to us, have pizza, have a drink, and then drive again. That would, at the moment, double my weekly income. So it's, again, then applying the diversification further, thinking outside the box, actually get out of the box, jump on the box, throw the box away, and start again. Because you're going to have to be really, really insightful, and just offer people new experiences. It's going to be a new world. And so where you can hold on to a small part of the old world, it's coming into a whole new era. Hotel rooms, if we have to sanitize every room after somebody's slept in there, there's going to be costs involved.
Yeah.
If you
have heard about those ozone things, they infuse something in the air and it sanitizes the room itself.
I've got a friend that's bought a fogging machine. So with the fogging machine, he can sanitize bedrooms and things like that. But I can imagine what he needs to operate at in terms of generating himself a business income on a daily basis. I can't have him come in every single day. So I've heard about what you suggested, and I've heard about the fogging machines. I just, how much, it is mind-boggling to think about. And again, because I've got so many different facets to the business, it's trying to think of how we can redo conferences so people can feel safe by coming to us for a conference. We've got plenty of space, so I can space them out, no problem at all. But it's the bedroom side of things. I've got a group for 42 rooms. He's organised a car event. He's organised a party in the evening. He's sold all 42 rooms. He hasn't got a date yet because he's waiting for the government to give us a date when we can open again. But as soon as he's got a date, he's got a big event planned. But how do those 42 rooms of people, social distancing corridors, everybody going to be walking around like staying away from each other? Once they've had a drink and they get drunk, how is it going to be then? It's strange.
It's unthinkable. But in between 50s and 80s, I think, or 60s and 80s, in America, the car cinemas were popular, and someone already told that the car cinemas probably gonna come back, and maybe car conference. People come to.
Yeah,
and you have so much space, Ciro. You have so much space. You could do massive drive-through.
We did a drive-in cinema last year for Fast and Furious 7 for an American car club.
Yeah.
And it was a great evening. There wasn't enough people because it was exclusive to this club. But yeah, it's something we can do. The only thing is, when you can only really do it in the summer, because then people can sit on their blankets as well as in their cars. So when it's the summer, the sunset begins about 9 o'clock, and it doesn't get dark enough to start the film till about 10 o'clock. So then you're there till about midnight, 10 past midnight for the end of the film.
Yeah.
So whilst you need it to be in the summer, the sunset is a lot later. And so it's a difficult one because it's not something for the kids, because it'd be great to take your kids to a drive-in movie and etc. But because it gets late, so dark so late, it's not viable for the kids. But drive-in cinema is something we've been considering. I'm just getting prices for that at the moment. But without them lifting the lockdown that I can open the restaurant, I can't supply them food. They can order food from the local Indian takeaway to my premises, but I can't supply them my own because of my premises license. Yeah. So there's
a lot of things to think about.
Yeah, constantly.
So let's move somehow to cars, because I know I have a feeling we should talk about cars. My first question is: Have you managed to get to new Amari's place?
To Sheikh Amari's place in Manchester?
Yeah, to the new one. Yeah.
I've been to his biggest showroom, which is in Preston. I went to that in November, but I know he's opening like a shop front or in Manchester in a very rich area of Manchester. But I haven't been to that. But I've been to his actual showroom where he keeps most of his cars.
Yeah. I've been to that one. Amari's, such a great guy, such a gem.
Yeah.
Amari, if you hear us, we like you, we love you.
Yeah.
Amazing guy. So, Ciro, let's start from your cars, your first car.
My first car.
Because if you guys don't know, if you just join us, you don't know about Ciro. Ciro is a guy, he's a petrol head, true petrol head. He runs this thing, the brand Petrol Hedonism. The website is just here. If you want to explore the website, go to the website, visit his events at the Sharnbrook Hotel. Beautiful, amazing events. He does a lot for charity and guys arriving in supercars. And Ciro even does supercar pizza delivery. I love this one. Okay, so your first car, and let's move from your first car, towards your Lambos.
Right. So first car was 1971 VW Beetle, which needed full restoration. I think we found it when I was 15, and I said, I want that car. I could have had a 2-3-year-old BMW. I could have had, I've always worked. So the family business was doing well. I worked in the family business. I didn't get paid as such for working.
But you had some money.
Yeah. So, in my family, it was like, we're going to buy your car when you pass the driving test. So I started when I was 15 reading Volksworld magazine and VW World magazines and looking at VW Beetles. And so we started building my first car, and it was a modified, customized VW Beetle, Californian looks, so slightly wider, lowered, dechromed, nice wheels, sound system. And I think I was a Bedfordshire pest with my car because it's so loud. But that for me, the drive behind petrol hedonism, the drive behind my love of cars goes back a bit further from my first car to my uncle Angelo, who was a mini. He was a used mini car dealer, and also restored minis and raced minis. And his dad, my granddad, was loved cars, and my granddad would always take me to see Uncle Angelo's and loved going to Uncle Angelo's garage. And it's his son, Bert, my cousin Bert, who's my chief marshal at my car shows. Sadly, Uncle Angelo died about 10 years ago, but I know he's very proud of what we did. He attended some of the first few events, but my cousin Bert has been nearly at all my car shows every year and helped me grow the car shows. He now has an assistant because the car shows are so big. I used to be the chief marshal. Now he's the chief marshal, and he has an assistant chief marshal. So that's where the love of cars came. And also I had Matchbox cars. I've got all the cars up behind me in my cabinets. I've got a steering wheel, as a centerpiece. That's a Motolita steering wheel. I've got a Speedo from a 1965 Fiat 500F just there. And that is going in my 1965 Fiat 500F when I restore it, because when they did restore it, they put the wrong one in. But I've got the original one there to go. But yeah, there's my cars and things. These are just some of them. There's boxes in my garage of cars from when I was a child. But first car was VW Beetle. Love that car. Also had to have a second car, which was one of the restaurant delivery cars at the time. So if we go back to 1994, I had a Austin Metro, which I would use every day because it became clear that I couldn't park my VW Beetle everywhere because it had a sound system, and I didn't want it scratched or anything like that. So I learned that early on. From the Austin Metro, I had several MG Metros, things like that. I had a Fiat Uno as a runaround as well. But as I say, that was a runaround, but also like a VIP car, a business restaurant car type thing. So I always had a second car to drive. After the VW,
that was just something to visit the car mechanics more often, yeah.
Exactly. All the time. The amount of times the Austin Metro broke down was crazy. Then when I went into the financial world after university, I sold the Beetle at the end of university because I was barely driving it. And my parents had an opportunity to buy another car, and we part exchanged the Beetle in. And I went into just hand-me-downs. I had a Fiat Punto, I had a Fiat Brava, which were both my sister's cars. So I took the Fiat Punto from my sister. And then my wife had the Fiat Punto and I got my sister's Fiat Brava. So we had both of those. And then the Fiat Punto went and we bought a Vauxhall Vectra Estate.
Fiat Punto, was it 60? Fiat Punto 60 or 75?
It was a rubbish one.
I truly loved 75 one. It was very
it
quick
wasn't
car.
a 75. It was a really small engine. I can't remember if it was 1.2.
Yeah, it was 1.2. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. It was fine. I didn't even think about cars like that then. I know I loved cars, but I wasn't really that fussed about what I had to drive. And it's what I could afford at the time. Once we'd become independent, having our own home and things like that. And then from the Vauxhall Vectra Estate, I got a company car at which was a brand new Vauxhall Vectra. And so there was just that time. And then I think it was 2003 that we had our first baby, my oldest, and I was looking at a classic Mercedes, a 1974 Mercedes 450 SLC.
Wow.
And I went to Peterborough.
That's right.
Yeah, I had the money. I went to Peterborough to look at the car. I went on my own, completely naive. I've learned this mistake so many times now. I saw the car. I thought it was great. £2,500. It was a proper gangster-looking 1974 Mercedes. It started, it runned. I drove it back from Peterborough. I gave the guy the money, and then I learned that it needed everything. I spent £800 on exhaust, plugs, leads, full service. I spent about £800 on make sure it ran right. And then when I showed somebody the car, they showed me all the rust, and I was like, oh no. I drove it to Bedford, came up here, and my dad's friend literally said, I have to have that car. I want that car. I was like, look, it's going to cost about £10,000 to restore it. He goes, doesn't matter. I want that car. I'm going to restore it. So he literally gave me the £3,000 to cover the cost of buying the car and the service. Gave me the £3,000. I let him have the car. Again, I carried on driving the Vauxhall Vectra and things like that. And that car is significant because he had it fully restored, everything done to it, and then it sat on his driveway for 7 years.
Wow.
And 7 years later, he offered to sell it back to me, and I wasn't ever going to pay him the price. And I think I bought it back for just under £5,000, but fully.
So you bought it back?
I bought it back.
Oh, you're lucky.
That's the car that you've got such a story with that car that it's a keeper. You keep.
Yeah.
There's no price on that car. So I've got that car. I changed the wheels on it. I've put air ride on it, so it sits really low, and it's a great modified old car, and it truly looks brilliant in the sunshine. So that's one of my cars. I've got several classic cars now, and I like the classic cars because I can own several because they're low cost to buy them and maintain them, but also I have that variety that I can drive something different every day. So from my London taxi to my wife's Mustang that I bought her, to the classic Mercedes. I have another classic 300 SL 1992. We have my cousins and I bought a Ferrari 348 4 years ago in Italy. That was just random, but we went to see this car that was for sale. We had an afternoon free. We went to see it. My cousins are mechanics, so I don't go on my own anymore. I take a mechanic so they can look. But when they took the cover off, my cousin was like, wow, that's amazing. Yes, we have to buy it. I was like, but you need to check it out first. So then he checked it out and he said, yeah, everything's great about this car. So it wasn't very expensive to buy it. So we shipped it back and we've had it for 4 years. The Lamborghini Gallardo Spider we owned for
the yellow one.
Yeah, the yellow one. So we sold that last year, January 2019. We'd owned it for 10 years. The car became synonymous with me, the hotel, the business, the car shows. But like any car, I think it was just the point that that car had to go at that time. We needed the money for a tax bill, and it wasn't getting driven enough, and things like, because it hadn't been driven enough, and I'd done 23,000 miles in 10 years, but the aircon unit had packed up and seized up completely. So that needed replacing, and to replace it was a big job, and then it needed all discs and pads redoing. So it got to the point where it's, things have changed, business have changed, and the amount it would cost to maintain it, rather than like my classic cars. So at the moment, the Lamborghini's gone. I have 2 Lamborghini tractors.
Yeah, I saw them.
They tell the story of Lamborghini from the beginning for me. I've become great friends with Valentino Balboni, who's the test driver for Lamborghini for 40 years. Been very good friends with Fabio Lamborghini, the nephew of Ferruccio Lamborghini. And the Lamborghini very much runs through my blood. But at the moment, especially with everything that's happened now, there's no Lamborghini in the actual collection at the moment. But fortunate, I can always drive my friends' Lamborghinis.
Yeah, well, definitely. But I never get attached. I love my cars, but I never get attached to my cars. And if the time comes, the time comes. That's it.
Yeah. For me, about attachment. It's amazing how sometimes that hunk of metal can have memories and emotion twined with it, where you can't detach it from you. So the 1974 Mercedes for me, my wife's Mustang, which I had built and rebuilt for her, so it's her favorite color, etc. There's certain cars that I will never let go, but others you feel it's time to let it go. You're a custodian for that time, for that period, and it's time to let them go. We're not talking Renault Kadjars or Nissan Micras. Nobody should ever be emotionally attached to those cars. But there's certain cars, and I think life's too short to drive a boring car.
That's true. So when are you planning next event? Because I can see here on the website there is petrol hedonism 25th of May today.
That's today, yeah.
So
they're all cancelled.
Yeah. Are you planning something, or what do you think is going to happen to your events? When can you resume, or sort of resume?
So it's going to be difficult. I think initially, possibly in June, but more so in July, we'll be able to do the social distancing car meets, where it'll be exclusive for 20, 30 cars at a time, but no spectators. Unfortunately, the business model is built on, originally, the first car show in 2007 was everybody bought their show cars for free. They entered for free, but we charged spectators £5 to come in and view the cars. Once we have those people there, they can only buy food and drink from our kiosk or the restaurant or the hotel. So that's where the business model began. Yep. Now with the growth of the events, and we can have 1,500 to 2,000 people at our events, there's different revenues from the events, from sponsors, from gate money. People want to show their cars. I've had to start charging to show their cars, because otherwise people are choosing to park in the showground rather than the spectator area, because it's free for them to park there. And so we were starting to have an issue with the quality of the show cars. So now the show cars need to pre-register, and then they pay a donation or something when they arrive, and the spectators pay. So the car shows, the model is lots of people and lots of income stream from different sources, especially with our kiosk and the restaurant. With smaller exclusive events for 20, 30 cars, it really streams down. So then what we're going to have to do is do more of those events. So I'd be planning, I've already got 20 groups listed at the moment that want to come. I know they're restricted numbers, so they may be booking multiple days. So then I would expect every evening, Monday to Friday, having a group, and then Saturday having a group at 12:30, one at 3 o'clock, one at 5:30, so that we can increase the numbers of those groups. It's never going to be what we would have done today at Autofest, where I would have had 1,500 people coming through the gates and raising money. I think we're raising money for one of the cancer charities today. At the moment, my web designer, obviously I can't afford to have him and pay him. So the website is what it is. The dates are all there, but the Corvette Club has postponed to next year. The Italian car day won't happen this year. All my events, if I could do them in August, I would have all my events back to back in August. And I know they would be busy, but it's still waiting on, similar to before lockdown, every day it's waiting on what the government guidelines are going to be and how they can be implemented safely to host their events and not break the law.
Yeah. Okay, listen, Ciro, thank you very much for this. So before I let you go, before I let you go, if you can, anything you can, we can do anything to help you. As soon as you open, please let me know. I'll put it to, I'll attach it to that video. I'll send it to my contacts, and we're happy to help you because the venue, and you are an amazing person, and the venue is great. Everything is great. I just love it. You have a good vibe.
Yeah,
I've been there a few times passing by Bedford, and I saw your venue, but I never, if you go from A to B, it's like, Christ, next time, next time. And then I said to my wife, listen, we're gonna go somewhere for the weekend, okay. So I contacted you, and then
yeah, I know.
And then it wasn't just before lockdown, but obviously, you hear something. It's like I just couldn't. We had to prepare our business to pivot online. So yeah, what I'll try to do, I'll try to send your offer to the public on YouTube channels. So yeah, whatever we can do to help you guys. And as soon as Petrol Hedonism is open, I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna visit you guys.
Yeah,
Would you like to?
Yeah, the only thing I can say is not just for my own business, and there's a lot of things on social media saying, don't forget to support local. When we come out of this, don't support chains like Domino's, Wagamamas, etc. Support your local businesses. I think that's wrong. I think Domino's, I don't eat Domino's, okay, because I have my own pizza place, but they employ people, and those people have a life and their own nucleus that they have to take care of. So it's a case of just trying to support everybody, but there's going to be only so much people can do. So just support your local businesses, whether they're a chain or whether they're an independent like ourselves. You need to support your local businesses. And from my point of view, I look in as somebody else locally who would have seen me for 10 years driving around a Lamborghini. We're thinking, well, for 10 years, he was fine. He was driving around a Lamborghini. Now he needs our help. Not just me. Any business right now needs your help, whether it's a carpenter, whether it's a gardener, whether it's a barber, hairdresser, anything. Everybody has been in the same storm. We're all in different boats. We're all having our own issues, but we all need to be supported. And if it means ordering a takeaway pizza or visiting an event, or even being, how can I explain it? Even being supportive and cooperative in terms of deposits that you've paid towards events. We've been really lucky. All our weddings that have postponed, we've told them that they save the money's locked in for them. They just move the date, and they've worked with us. Nobody's asked for a refund. They've worked with us. They've rebooked it for next year. So next year will be extremely busy. We can count on that. That's fantastic. We're dealing with what's happening right now. But yeah, so I said from the beginning, it's about building relationships. I've built relationships with people since I was a 5-year-old on the market with my dad in Finman Market and selling bin bags. I've built relationships with people, and we build relationships with our couples who've got a wedding in 2 years' time. I build relationships with our car people. I greet people when they arrive for the car show so they know how important they are to me and the business. And that's it. Just keep building relationships and keep those relationships going. And the only thing we can ask people to do is just to support where you can. Support us, support your local businesses, support anybody. It means spending money, and some people may not have the money to spend, but you can support them in other ways by sharing on Facebook or sharing on YouTube. So anything anybody can do. There's a lot of information overload as well in terms of like if you constantly share. But I see the spike on Saturday night at 5 o'clock. I shared our takeaway menu again, and then the phone started ringing. It's amazing that it happens like that. You share, you maybe think, what if I didn't share? But you don't want to be in that situation. You just need to keep proliferating and increasing and reminding people you're there.
Exactly. So I've been thinking about this for some time. The most important thing, even more than ever, is look after your clients, and your clients will look after your business. And I think whoever is behind it is going to win. But whoever is late for the train may go, and that's it. The business may close the door.
Yeah. I'm just finding you something that I want to show you, and this was really emotional when we did this. It was the second week of lockdown, and I just mentioned we do so many weddings. We've done over 1,000 weddings in the last 13 years, and I'm so proud that we built relationships with our bride and grooms. And we asked them all I'll just put it on our Facebook page, and we asked them to comment with a memory, because the halls of the hotel are so empty and closed and dark, just a memory of their wedding day. And we had so many bride and grooms. But when I put this picture out, we had about another 30 bride and grooms. Oh, we missed it. Can we send our photo now? So we're putting together a graphic of
it's amazing
people's memories and it was the little stories they put, or the memories of their day, whether it was one groom, his only thing he wanted for his wedding day was a pig roast. She could have everything. She could have everything she wanted, but as long as he had a pig roast, he'd be really happy. And a lot of these bride and grooms have become friends. And there's so many times on a Saturday night, you walk around a restaurant and there's 5 bride and grooms that got married now with their children or with their families. And so that just
proper relationship with the client.
Exactly. And that reminds me how important what we do is, and I know that we will be supported when we come back.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ciro. Listen, I wish you all the best, okay?
Sure.
With the restart, and I will be following you guys. And as soon as everything's over, we begin everything, restart everything. Yeah. I'm going to be there. We're going to have a good coffee, okay?
Brilliant.
And pizza.
Excellent. So pizza first, and then doppio ristretto macchiato.
And no pineapple on that pizza.
Thank you very much, Damien. Thank
you very much, Ciro. Yeah, God bless you. See you soon.
Hope it grows.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. Do you cut it off, or do I cut it off?
Cutting off.
All right, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, brilliant, mate. I'm going to go.